Georgia. That is where Ben Portnoy is. Ben, friend of the show, writes for The State in South Carolina. He is in Augusta for the week. Ben, I know we talked about this a year ago when you were making your first trek, your first voyage, and how excited you were about it, and what it was like to be there. What about returning for year two, and just how sweet it is?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I will say, you definitely still get the butterflies. I think that I'm by no stretch a veteran here. There are far more people who have been here a lot more times than I have. But I think that the thing that you get, having been here at least once, and I think that you have an appreciation for no matter how many times you come, it's sort of the most fun thing is to watch people who've never been here experience it. And it's really cool. I think that, I was standing out kind of by the main gate and the main scoreboard that folks love to take pictures in front of. And I was kind of standing there, and it was really fun. I saw this dad and this kid who was probably about 10 years old, and he kind of looked at him and he was like, I think this is better than being in school today. And I was just like, this really cool little heartwarming thing. And you see a lot of that. And I think that that's the thing that makes this place so special is that, everyone here thinks it's the coolest thing in the world that they're here. And I think everyone next to you feels that way, and everyone around the grounds feels that way. And I think there's just this really cool aura that kind of comes with that on top of it just being an amazing, physical place as well.
Do you play golf?
I do.
And have you entered the media lottery?
It just opened about 20 minutes ago as I got back into the media center. So it's my next step on the as soon as we hang up, that is my next step is to go split my name in the lottery.
Good for you. Hope it works out. That certainly would be a cool experience for you. Hey, let's start with changes to the golf course. So much has been made of the lengthening of the par 5 13th. They've added 35 holes, 35 yards. Can play about 545 yards. This is something that had been rumored for a really long time. What about this piece of land? Are they going to buy it from Augusta Country Club? They finally bought it. They took their time in developing it. How's it going to change the way 13 is played?
Yeah, it's definitely a real impact. I mean, it's a little bit hard from where you stand as far as patrons and watching the actual hole to kind of see it as far as a depth perception perspective, but you notice it in where guys are landing balls, right? Tiger kind of joked about it yesterday, said, both physically and literally because of, what the hole is and how he's changed physically. The days of him hitting a 3-wood then an 8-iron into the green are no longer. And I think that when you look at that, a lot of guys are laying up. I was talking with Dustin Johnson about this yesterday, and he even said, he kind of just roped one out there to kind of see what he could do and kind of rolled over a drive, which isn't his natural sort of swing path. And he was able to get up there in 2, but you're seeing guys as opposed to hitting maybe a 7 or an 8-iron in, they're having to hit a 5 or a 6. I think someone told me today that Scotty Scheffler hit a 5-iron in when he was playing a couple weeks ago, and that's kind of what you've seen from a lot of guys. They're having to play a longer iron into the green on a side hill lie, so it just makes it a lot less likely to go for it. I think you're going to see a lot of guys lay up, and Tiger kind of put it in the context of you might not see as many 3s, and as many 7s, but you also might see you're probably just going to see a lot more 4s and 5s, and it'll kind of bring it a little bit back to the mean, if that makes sense.
Ben, what's the Tiger buzz this week? I mean, clearly he is not the golfer that he once was, but he is still the guy that moves the needle more than anybody else. As you talk to people, as you listen to Tiger talk, I feel bad even asking the question, does he have a chance? I don't ever want to count the guy out, and I think everybody would pull for another magical Tiger weekend at Augusta. But it does seem like the more relevant question is, does Tiger make the cut?
It's true, and I think that, when you look at the fact that he made the cut last year, I mean, that was a huge deal, especially being I think he was only 12-ish months out from that horrific car crash. Right. I think this year there's definitely still the buzz. I think that, it doesn't have, I don't want to say the same juice. That's maybe not the right way to say it, but it's definitely a little bit different. I think it's a little more, almost like you mentioned, it's a little bit somber in a way. I think that, the way that Tiger was talking the other day, Tiger's definitely really good he's one of these guys that's very good about saying a lot without saying much at all. Mm-hmm. And I think that, the other day, listening and sitting in his press conference and listening to him talk, he was very introspective. And I think that was really interesting. He even said, he said, I'm not sure how many of these I have left. And I think that, that's a refreshingly sort of, I don't want to say honest, but refreshingly open Tiger the other day. And I think he said, this is not physically, it is really hard for him to get around the golf course. And Roy McIlroy said the same thing. They played a practice round together the other day, and Roy said, Tiger's got all the shots. It's the walking around and the hills and the elevation changes. I mean, it is a long walk and a hard walk to get around this golf course. And I think because of that, that's what kind of makes this tricky, so to speak.
And it's not just doing it 4 days, right? I mean, Tiger was there and played some holes on Sunday, and I'm sure played Monday and Tuesday a little bit. And not like he's going out and playing 18, but I mean, it's the cumulative of getting ready for the tournament and then practice rounds to get even further ready for the tournament, and then the pressure of playing in a major. So there's a lot there. I got to ask you about Phil, because I thought Phil looked bad yesterday when I kind of watched his outdoor press conference. He's not in the main media center. What's it been like? What's the reception, the reaction to Phil this week?
It's actually weirdly understated. I think that if this had happened last year on the comments that he made and all that kind of came out of that, it's maybe a little bit of a different animal. Now, I do think that I'm really fascinated to see how the crowds respond to him. I think that Phil is still a magnetic personality. I think people still get behind him. I think people still love the idea of Phil competing and all of that. But, you look at his results in the LIV tournaments, and he's been placing at or near the bottom in most of those. And those
right.
are, significantly weaker fields. Now, I think it is interesting that Phil is here. There will be certainly some fanfare when he goes off tomorrow morning. Again, I'm really curious to see just how crowds respond. I think they will be largely positive, and I think we'd be having a very different conversation if he had showed up a year ago. But I do think that it's going to be – I think people are going to be largely receptive, but with the understanding of sort of where Phil is. But, I mean, I'm not saying the guy's going to go out and win, but he did go and win at Kiowa at 51 years old 2 years ago. So it's not completely insane and unheard of, but it feels increasingly unlikely, I would say.
Visiting with Ben Portnoy, got a couple of minutes left with him. Writes at the State in Columbia and is live from Augusta with us this afternoon. Ben, how many of the LIV guys legitimately have a chance to win this week?
I think you can kind of circle two, that being Cam Smith and Dustin Johnson. Dustin's obviously won here before. Cam Smith has played some really good golf here in the past and has come really close to winning. He kind of clipped right at Scotty Scheffler's heels early in that round on Sunday of last year, and Scotty took it in control, and Cam faded a little bit down the stretch. But he's played really good golf. I don't know what kind of form he's in, and you could say the same thing about Dustin Johnson. I think that's the thing that's really hard to peg with the LIV guys, is that they just aren't playing a lot. And I know that's a sort of drawn-out discussion and is the easy talking point of these guys aren't playing 4 days worth of tournaments. They're playing no cut. They're not playing as often every week, So I think because of that, it's just really, really, really hard to sort of peg what these guys are going to be. Now, again, there's something to the effect of, like what we were talking about with Tiger, he played this course how many times and knows his way around this course. And certainly Dustin Johnson and Cam Smith haven't played as many times as Tiger, but these guys have played a lot of rounds on this golf course. And Cam Smith was talking about it the other day, and that this is a place where he feels comfortable and he feels like sometimes he can just find something, even if he hasn't been playing great. And I think that Dustin Johnson falls in the same category. So, again, it's really, really hard to kind of peg where these guys are going to be because they just haven't played a heck of a lot of golf. And because of that, we're not really sure what kind of form they're going to be in. But if you're going to circle two of the LIV guys, I mean, I think it has to be those two.
I would agree on those two, but I might, if we're putting circles around them, I might underline three others. And, Patrick Reed, because he's won there before. Bubba, because he's won there and he feels like a guy that's familiar enough and Mike could turn it on. And then I wonder also about Brooks after winning on LIV last week, if maybe he found something and it can be like a lightning in the bottle thing for him.
Yeah, I think with Brooks it's fascinating because he's a guy that has always had the physical tools, and we saw 2 years ago it felt like Brooks was never going to lose another major. That's
you're right.
How he was playing. I mean, it was unbelievable. He was running away with tournaments, and I think that when you look at what his biggest issue and folks who've watched the Netflix documentary and everything else, I mean, the biggest thing for Brooks was always confidence. It was never the physical side of it, and we see that a lot with guys, but the thing with him was always that mental side of it. And he's feeling better about things right now, and because of that, I think that he's a guy that should play into the weekend, you would think. He's played pretty well here before. And I think because of that, he's, like you said, another guy that I would definitely underline along with those two past champions.
Ben, if time works out, we'd love to visit with you tomorrow afternoon and kind of get a first-round update and talk more about this. If not, I certainly understand. But thanks so much for spending a few minutes with us this afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.